Hello everyone, welcome back to Story Behind the Story. I'm your host Courtney Rowe, and today I'm joined by Sarah, reporting for The Human of Northwest, who this week is Susan. Can you tell us who is Susan?
So Susan's an international student. He comes from Nepal, and he's actually an RA at South Complex. So I thought it was really interesting getting to talk to him because of like where he comes from, and a lot of people, international students especially, tend to be bridges. So I thought it was really interesting getting to learn like how it is being an RA.
So what made you want to interview him in the first place?
So like kind of like before, I really wanted to interview him to get that international perspective. He has a very interesting story. I didn't realize how involved he was on campus, but getting to learn a lot more about him really helped me figure out like why I really wanted to like have him as a human.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about his story, where he comes from, and what your experience was like talking to him?
Yeah, so like my experience talking to him was like really great. He was so kind, and every time that he like was talking, he would just be like, he'd kind of pause for a minute. It was a little bit hard at times because he does have he doesn't always have the best English, but he always tried his best, which was great, and it was great getting to know more about him. He was always he was always smiling. Like I don't think there was a time when I didn't see him just break down or really have his not his smiling attitude. So, but yeah.
As a resident in South Complex, I can say for a fact, seeing his face, it literally lights up my entire day. He's always so positive and bubbly, and he's one of the reasons I love living there so much. But he is an RA there, which means he works directly with Jacob Wood, who is the director of the entirety of South Complex. And he's been watching Susan since he was a freshman. Like, he's been there through his entire journey, and you got to talk to him. So what did he have to say about Susan?
Yeah, so actually it was really interesting getting that perspective that he has known him for 3 years because he was the hall director at Milliken. Then he went to, he took him onto his team and at South Complex, and he just continued on at South Complex for the next 2 years. So it was really interesting. He had a lot to say. He was one of the funniest things I think he said was the fact that wow, he's really grown from how he was when he was a freshman. He was a little bit more reserved. He was always still smiling and very happy. But he, as he's gotten to know more people and felt more comfortable, he started to play more pranks. And that was hilarious to me because I could definitely see it in the way that he would interact with people out in the hall whenever we were just, touring, South Complex with him. So it was great to get to see that interaction and see that, what Jacob Wood had to say about him was very true.
So you said in your story that there was a point where he almost wasn't able to come to America in the first place. So can you kind of expand on this and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what he told me was that he and his friend had both applied for visas, which is something that you need to do if you're going to be an international student or really just traveling in general. And so he had applied for a U.S. visa, and he had to do an interview process. And almost immediately after the interview process, they tell you whether or not you get to, whether they'll sign the visa. So the first time he applied, they both said no, and they were both told no, and it ended up being because they were worried that they wouldn't come back after they got the visa, come back to Nepal. And so they both applied again, and Susan was like, if I don't get this the second time, I'm just going to stay in Nepal, and I won't try again, or I might go to Australia. So he had two options, but really he was kind of I'll probably just try to stay with my friends if this doesn't work out. He got some bad news from his best friend before, and he said, because he got rejected again for his visa. And he was like, well, I will try my best. And he did. And then, immediately after, he actually went, he got it. And they were like, okay, we'll sign your visa. And after that, he said he couldn't stop smiling for hours. It was just a great feeling. And he immediately called his sister, who lives in Houston, about it. And then he also talked to his dad and said, yeah, so I'm going to the United States. And he was just so excited and ecstatic that day.
I like to believe that everything, worked out the way it was supposed to. I know I and a lot of other students wouldn't be able to imagine Northwest without him because he has shared his culture with so many people. And I know he mentioned that he's done this through food, through music, two things that he's very passionate about. What do they mean to him, and how has he shared this with other people?
So for cooking, he's kind of always learned how to cook for himself ever since he was really young. One of the things that he really enjoys with cooking is that he believes like food is a connection to culture,
yes,
which is very much true. And so when he cooks food, he likes to make it more than just for himself. He makes it for everybody. And a lot of the times, Jacob Cook actually talked about it too. Mm-hmm. He was like, yeah, I have tried so much Nepalese food because mm-hmm. of him. And his favorite food is actually momos, which is his favorite thing to make, Susan's favorite thing.
Yeah.
And with that, he just he loves that he's able to share his culture through food, but then also he's part of the NSA, and with that he's able to play his bansuri, which is a type of bamboo flute, and he also plays the model, which is a two-sided drum. And those are his favorite instruments mm-hmm. to play, which he played back in Nepal. And he got to bring them back over to the United States. And with that, he's been able to really showcase some of his talent. And he plays every time the NSA does something. Sometimes he has been in the homecoming variety show actually with dancing. With NSA. So. It's been really interesting. He loves that he's been able to be part of the NSA, and he really loves that he's been able to showcase a lot of his talents and share his culture as well.
I have to say, I think that's one of my favorite things about Northwest is that we have so many international students who are so willing to share their cultures with everyone, and it's honestly really cool to learn about where everyone's from and what they can do. And I think one of my favorite parts was when his sister was recalling a story of when they were younger, but you got to actually sit down and talk to her. What was that like, and what did she have to say?
It was actually really great. Since obviously she lives in Houston, wasn't able to do it in person, but I got to talk with her through FaceTime, which was a lot better than talking through the phone because I can see her expression, I can see how she's feeling, and so I was able to properly describe certain parts and conversation bits that she was saying, and I knew that when she was done talking, then I could finally ask a question, because at times it can be really hard when you're doing a phone recording, because you're just random pause, and then you wait, and then they'll be saying more, but then you cut them off.
Yeah.
And it's really awkward. But for her, she was great. She really loves her brother, and she's I'm so proud of him, but he was a very, very lazy boy when he was in Nepal. And I thought that was one of the best things to hear, because it really is a sibling dynamic, even though they are 10 years apart. And I didn't mention this in the story, but they both hadn't seen each other for 7 years before he got to go to the United States, and that was the first time he actually got to see her after she had moved to the United States. So.
Well, shoot.
That was great. Yeah.
If you guys don't know Susan, I highly suggest meeting him. He will change your life. He's honestly incredible, and I'm so glad that we were able to learn more about him, where he's from, and what he's capable of through your story. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. What should we expect from you in The Human?
So our newest human will be Christopher Hughes. He works for Northwest. He is a Bearcat alum, 2-star general. He has written the book A War on Two Fronts, and so it'll be really interesting getting his story.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that he has to offer.
I'm really looking forward to reading what you have to say and what he has to say. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.